Well, hello and welcome to our Subconscious Speaks. My name's Don Robert, and together with my amazing, talented, award-winning partner,
Tina Orlando.
and together we are,
Tina Orlando.
and Don. And we're back. All right, that's a couple of episodes in a row. We've got that old intro back working. Just brings a smile to our face. So hopefully, it brings a little joy to your heart as well. So, Tina, how the hell are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Busy. Good. How are you?
Busy and good. And hey, guess
Love it.
what? Guess what
What?
happened? Spring has sprung.
I
It was
know.
70 degrees yesterday. I literally didn't have to turn my heat on and wear a winter coat inside my cold house.
There are people probably in the Midwest pissed off about that,
Oh,
but
I have clients on the East Coast that laugh at me. They're like, "Oh, poor
mm.
baby." Like no, it was really cold. It was in the 40s a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, "Okay, that's cold. For
Yeah,
California, that's freezing."
it's true. It's true. Early in
Yeah.
the AM, it's very, very cold. But it is very nice out
Because
today.
you're up before the crack of dawn.
I am. I am.
Yeah.
I'm up at I'm in the Mark Wahlberg Club of the 4 a.m. crew.
Oh, okay. How's that
It's being
going?
mocked.
Are you are you on his program?
Clearly, I'm praying to go back to sleep. I don't know, that's what I
Yeah.
do. Uh, yeah.
It's interesting, just to peel back our relationship for the listeners, viewers. Something that I learned from you indirectly. It wasn't like you said, this is what you have to do. Like just us sharing our lives with each other. I remember you're just been a do whatever has to be done kind of person.
hmm
No limitations to, oh, I only do this, or I only work till 5, or I only, right? That the I only is a very, like when you're your own boss, and yes, of course, you have a financial relationship with another entity that you work through, but you're
hmm
still kind of your own boss in that capacity,
Yes,
right? You
I
could
am.
walk away from that in a heartbeat. But one of the things that I love about our relationship is, we feed each other without even really asking for a meal. You know what I mean? And so um, I started saying yes to more requests, like taking clients at 6 o'clock at night, which is like, because I had this corporate life for so long, Tina, it was like, no, no, this is the deal. I'm in the office
Yeah.
by 8 and I'm out by 6, or whatever,
Mhm.
whatever the parameters were that I was doing at the time. Um, and I kind of am enjoying this freedom, if you will, to say yes to more, you know
Absolutely. Yes, man.
because I've been manifesting more.
Yes,
So
man.
if you want to manifest more and then you keep saying no,
It doesn't work that way.
no, it doesn't.
Mm.
And then I forget where I got this, but there was I don't know. This is before social media took over as far as the algorithm feeding me information that I like.
Mm.
But I stumbled across this idea about just say yes one day, just yes to everything.
Yes, man. That's what I just said. Yes,
Well,
man.
yeah, that's the movie.
That's the funny
It wasn't the
movie.
movie. It was something. It was a little something a little deeper than that. But the movie does, uh, it does feed the theory of just saying yes.
Say
Um,
yes to everything. You don't, everything that's gonna, within reason, of course. But, when you
right.
say yes,
Mm-hmm.
you allow for more room, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a saying yes to your future self, not your current self. And that really is like the basic law of attraction, saying
Yeah, it's kind
yes
of like you have
to
to
your future
become
self.
that which you desire.
That's saying yes to your future self, right?
Yeah,
Like if
yeah.
you're gonna eat, if you want to lose weight, you got to eat like your thinner self would eat. Think about it
Pizza and
that
ice
way.
cream isn't on the menu for the.
Not really. I mean, once in a while, sure.
Sure.
But it's like if you can see that future self image,
Mm,
that's the number one key, like to law of attraction. You have to be able to see that future self image. And if we really kind of
yeah,
digest what that is,
yeah.
you know, how you look, how you move, how you talk, how
The
you
five
walk, how you
senses.
think,
Yeah.
all the way through.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
key. Yeah. So you got to say yes.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
hmm
Just say
Just say
yes.
yes.
Yeah, which is a complete opposite of the 1980s drug motto, which is just say no. Nancy Reagan.
Yeah. Well, um,
Different scenario.
different scenario, different time.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. So this kind of is a topic that I was hoping we could get into today. We've been talking about the how to kind of unlock the subconscious, unlocking and utilizing the power of suggestibility. And so I thought that maybe today we could look at it from maybe a different angle, like more of a clinical kind of viewpoint as far as well, we've talked about this, the neuroplasticity and, the laws of the universe. The most of which we use in hypnotherapy is the law of repetition. So I thought we should talk a little bit about neuroplasticity.
Hmm.
Would you like to start us off with you seem to have a knack for keeping definitions in your mind. So would you like to share with our listeners what is when you hear the word neuro? Well, neuro, obviously, you should think of the brain, right?
Hmm.
Plastici and plasticity.
Plasticity.
Yeah, it's a
Hmm.
tricky word.
Neuroplasticity.
Plasticity.
It,
Yeah, okay,
it
sure.
just allows us to adapt to new environments and learn new patterns. That's all that means.
Yeah.
Um, but it's always updating and it's always reprogramming, you know.
And this is
So
inside and outside of hypnosis. This is your everyday
this is
walking
just
around.
brain.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
has nothing to do with specifically of what we're trying to educate you on, which is, the power of your subconscious, your thoughts, your patterns, your loops. I mean, it's all part of it, but
Hmm.
this idea of neuroplasticity is bigger than, this kind of topic of our subconscious.
Hmm.
But it is absolutely the driving factor in change, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Creating those neurons, as I think I said last episode, creating new neural pathways to change. I love saying that because it's
Hmm.
true, first and foremost. So I thought maybe we could get into that a little bit. But then
Hmm.
if you're somebody that's really been kind of stuck in a rut and you just can't seem to change on your own, as we've discussed in other episodes, it's that kind of the Dr. Kappa's theory of mind, which is, your conscious thinking, which is where your willpower comes from, where your logic and reasoning. It's about 10% of what runs the show. So, you
It
know,
absolutely is.
so you're
Um,
like literally up against it. And so it's just always so such a eye-opening moment when people get it and they go, "Oh, no wonder I can't change on my own."
well, right. Some of that is your life script. That's what we're talking about. Some
Yeah.
of it, come to find out, it's ancestral, like primitive DNA, like built into us, like fight or
Mm-hmm.
flight,
Mm-hmm.
and freeze. And freeze comes before fight or flight. Like everyone freezes, even the Navy SEALs. They've just trained not to freeze.
Mm.
It's just a normal survival mechanism. But that ancestral script is, you know, the basis of survival. Like
Yeah.
what if I
It's to protect us.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, whether it's in a tribe or solo or against authority, it just depends on what you're coming up against. So, you know, but we can always learn and change and grow. But in order to do that, we have to program and rebuild
Yeah, that's a tricky word
neuroplasticity.
for people in our world, isn't it? Right? Because
Well,
we get accused of mind control, right? And we're not in control. All we can do is make suggestions for change and create the pathway. It has to align with what you want.
yes, my new question is, if you were in control of everything that you were doing, would you be sitting here asking me to help you? It's a big thought to ponder. I
If
know.
you, yeah, I mean, that's really kind of an interesting question shaped around the inability of, the 10% of our conscious mind to create change on our own, right?
Right. It usually that question usually comes out of my mouth when somebody says that hypnosis is mind control. Um, I mean, technically, years ago, used negativity. Um, it was part of a lot of research. It wasn't the only research that was going on, and it wasn't the only factor being used.
Hmm.
But if you're, a board certified clinical hypnotherapist, you're not doing those things. I'm not the CIA. Um, you know, that isn't to,
So many shows just came rushing to my head.
well, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, and I texted you the other day, the funny, the acronym to our subconscious speaks is OSS, right?
Uh-huh.
Which the CIA was previously known as the OSS, which I thought was hilarious and had to share it with you. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Explain that for the listeners. Why would their acronym be the OSS?
oh, I can't, now I'm gonna have to look it up.
Oh, okay. Because I've never
Um,
heard that before.
I think it had, hold on. I don't want to misspeak because, that's never a good
You
thing.
are technically the authoritative voice in the relationship here as far as facts and figures. You're my fact checker, just like my sister is, and like all these amazing women in my life
Um,
love, and my brother and men,
I
right?
didn't
But
want,
it's usually the
right.
women in my life that like to correct me.
Well, I didn't want to get it wrong. It's the Office of Strategic Services.
Ah, I've never
Um,
heard of that. Interesting.
yeah, which
Huh.
was, during World War II. So it was the
Okay.
OSS.
Interesting.
And
All
and
right.
now it's the CIA. Um,
I did not
but
know that. There you
OSS.
go. Fun fact of the day, ladies and gentlemen. There it
There's
is.
your there's your trivia for the
There it
day.
is. I didn't have that on my bingo card.
Sorry.
Oh, it's
I
all
like to keep you
good.
on your I like to keep you on
Uh,
your toes.
okay. So you said
Hmm.
something that I want to go back to because one of my favorite talk tracks is I use a breathing technique that the Navy SEALs use called
Hmm.
tactical breathing, which is the same as box breathing in the meditation world. And so I don't think I've ever heard you in 5 years or anybody say anything close to what you said about 8 minutes ago, which is the Navy SEALs just choose not to. What? How did you say it? You said something about like they
I
go
said even
into freeze first as well, but they just seem to ignore it. Or I forget what. I
no,
don't think
they've no,
ignore
they've
is the way.
trained no, they've trained to overcome their fear because primarily, survival, fight or flight,
Yeah.
you immediately go into freeze because when you're when you're an embryo, let's say in your mother's belly, if she is experiencing fight or flight, the infant just seizes up and just sits very still. It doesn't move around a lot when there's fight or flight. So it's built in
Okay.
to us
Yeah.
that we would automatically freeze first, and
Okay.
then you go into fight or flight. What I said was that Navy SEALs have trained to not go into freeze first. They assess, then move.
So I'm
Um,
going to put you on the spot, and forgive me for doing this, but do you have like how? So saying they train is like, you and I have trained to be hypnotherapists, but there's
well,
12
I
months and thousands of hours of training that we've gone through. Like, do you know,
Navy.
is it about the breath? Because that's my understanding is that they are able to regulate the autonomic nervous system, which
That's
is the
correct.
freeze, fight, or flight.
Right. They've learned it in repetition though. Um,
Ooh, ooh.
they've learned it
You
in repetition.
go
So
ahead.
when they do their training, and any type
Mhm.
of military training is all repetition. And it's slightly a bit of mind control if we're going to really throw them under the bus there. But it is mind control. It is
Uh-huh.
slightly occult because they are telling you what to do.
It's
They shape your
programming.
head.
Yeah.
It's programming,
They're
right?
programming them
Um,
to have an autonomic response to it instead of the layman, you, me, anybody and their mother walking around just having life experience, which completely takes us over.
mhm, right.
Yeah.
So they have trained through repetition of being put in those situations not to freeze first,
Yeah.
but to assess and react as quickly as possible.
I think the first
Um,
free the first act of not freezing is when they flip backwards over the pontoon boat and go into the water when they're going to swim up onto the shore and go on a mission. That might be the first.
well, definitely. I mean, yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Navy SEALs are just, I don't think they're all human. I think they're programmed very well.
It's it's kind of it's kind of incredible what they achieve and what they're able to do, considering in spite of the normal response of fight or flight, that they're able to just basically not ignore it, but um,
Well, it becomes normal to them,
yeah,
expected, repetition,
yeah. Well, I mean,
programming.
that's where we're getting into Aristotle, right? The we are what we repeatedly do.
Hmm.
They would I would consider them, and I think most people in the military would consider them elite, right? The SEALs
Absolutely.
are
Yeah.
the elite branch of the military.
Hmm.
And so they would be considered excellent, right? So
Hmm.
excellence, as Aristotle said, is an act. It's not an act, but a habit. So they're creating those habits in their training. So
Hmm.
it becomes
Absolutely.
the loop and the pattern. And they don't show up like that, though. They might
Not
have to take
usually.
some psychological tests, and they may have to take pass some physical tests. But oh, and by the way, if you know a SEAL or are a SEAL, please feel free to chime in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And first
Absolutely.
and foremost, thank you for your
Thank
service.
you.
Yeah,
Hmm.
thank you very
Yeah.
much.
We love them.
Yeah, we do.
Hmm.
Uh, and then there's some badass TV shows that are,
Yeah.
SEAL team. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, we are what we think about, right? What we those thoughts in there, because that's going to draw more to what we want. Like, so if you think negative, you'll see more negative. It's like, I'm going to go and buy a red car in a month from now, and every car you see is going to be red. Like, you're going to notice all the red cars,
yeah, it's my favorite.
and
It's my favorite analogy,
yeah,
right?
right. It's the easiest one because we can all identify with that. But that's also true for your thoughts. So if you have a lot of negative thoughts, right, you're going to notice more negative things.
Yeah.
It just depends on where you want to put that focus.
I mean, we're talking about, being a magnet, the
Yeah,
magnetism. Yeah.
absolutely.
That
We
you're
are.
basically attracting to you that
Mm-hmm,
which you focus on. Yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's, you got to get ahead of yourself. You got to get ahead of your thoughts, meaning you have to be disciplined enough to get your thoughts in line with what you actually want.
Hmm.
Get ahead of yourself. Take responsibility for those thoughts. They just don't randomly occur.
Right.
I mean, do we all have down days? Yes, I'm not sitting here preaching like that. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, you have to be cognizant, like, aware. What is it that you're thinking? What is it that you're attracting? And on top of that, can you see your future self? Some people cannot, it's like their compass. If you ask them, where's your future, where's your past, and they point this way instead of this way,
Hmm.
it's a little off.
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting
mm.
you just brought up timeline. Because as I was thinking about
Don't
today,
think so,
I was
man.
thinking about, getting into talking about collapsing the anchors and the loops and changing the patterns and, kind of some of the modalities and techniques that we use as
Hmm.
hypnotherapists. So it's
Hmm.
interesting that that's where I went as well. Is not specifically as to front and back and side to side, but
Hmm.
more so about um, just kind of the releasing and the collapsing of those periods in our timeline that seem to just hold us back.
Yep, it's programming.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
that's the
it's
simplicity of
experience.
it, right? It's programming. Okay.
It's
Uh,
programming.
and
I
I
mean,
think we've talked about, well, I have my own programming. I watch programs, right? And those
hmm, hmm,
programs are programming, my thoughts and behaviors and habits. And that's why I like the who done it and figure it out. It makes my brain work, which I like. That's good stuff
uh-huh.
for,
Hmm. It's good for you. It
yeah.
holds your focus.
Yeah. for sure.
And it
Uh-huh.
has some authority. It
Yeah.
creates a tribe and it
Mm-hmm.
has emotion.
Mm.
You can all noodle on that one for a minute.
Yeah. I
hmm
mean, it's really in the spirit of imagination, and you're talking about like what's your future self look like, right?
hmm
It's tapping into all of your senses. There's usually great soundtracks on TV shows and movies, especially when
hmm
it's one of those moments where they want to drive something home into your mind, that you can
Music.
attach to is music,
hmm
right? We talked about
hmm
this, you know, a
hmm
couple 2 3 sessions ago. Um, yeah, it's very interesting how I just keep doing the parallel to, like, what if you could just create a scene for a client that they could watch? Like, this is I'm noodling in the moment. I'm just having a moment thought here where, like, we record sessions and give them to the clients so they can listen to them later, so they can keep kind of reliving that experience, because the experience that they have in a session, it takes time, right? There's no magic bullet here. It's not one and you're done. At least that's not my experience. Not with significant change. Not when we're changing loops and patterns that have been there since you're 12 or 13
Long-standing
or
patterns.
yeah, yeah.
hmm
We're talking repetition here.
Time. hmm
Yeah, yeah.
hmm
What do you think
It
about
also
that?
depends. Well, I mean, it depends on how suggestible they are, right?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
How suggestible they are to change. So the higher the motivation to change, the higher the suggestibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not Capustinian definition of suggestibility, just insuggestibility. Um, but I believe that the higher suggestible, um, the higher the suggestibility, the more motivation. It goes both ways. So the more motivation to change, the higher the suggestibility.
Right.
Um, and then, if you're really trying to change those patterns, then it comes down to repetition
Mm-hmm.
and their focus. Are
So
they focused on things?
why does in the world of manifestation and law of attraction, why does this whole idea of affirmations get such a bad name? Like, why it seems to have, like, oh, if you just say to yourself, I'm a millionaire over, 100 times, that you're going to have $1 million in your bank next month. Um, what do you think about that? This law of repetition as far as affirmations go?
Absolutely. I think that a law of repetition, it has to be in play, but you also have to, you can say it a million times, but if you can't see it,
Yeah.
like really imagine yourself, that's why I'm saying you have to be responsible
Mm-hmm.
for what your thoughts are. You have to get ahead of yourself. That's why I keep saying it that way. Like, if I said to you, Don, imagine yourself as, the perfect image of yourself. Can you see that? Right? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
you can because you do the work.
Yeah.
Somebody else, they'll be like, I don't know what that is. So then you have to then go back and build that image with them, help them build their image, right? And then they
Yeah.
have to be able to see it. Like it has to be there. You
Yeah.
have to get ahead of yourself because today's person isn't the millionaire, but tomorrow's person is, and you have to act like that person.
So it's interesting that you bring up this term image, right? So, we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about invoking the senses to create
Mm-hmm.
the own reality. And then I think I think I may have mentioned, I get confused sometimes about things I talk to clients about and things that we've discussed on our podcast and things that we've
Mm-hmm.
discussed in our personal life. So forgive me if I've already said this, but like, um, I think we talked about this on the podcast about, like, when I was an actor, I went to a school that was a Meisner technique.
Mm-hmm.
Sanford Meisner, who was a infamous acting coach back in the day, a long, long time ago, like Jimmy Dean days, or earlier, Brando, maybe even, right? They would be referred to as method actors who fully invoke the spirit and the ideology of the character that they're going to portray. And we were taught, like I played a soldier coming home from Vietnam, and my opening scene that I'm in is I come down the side of the theater with in uniform with my backpack, like I've just been sent home, and I open up the door to go on stage, and the stage is a it's a mock version of an airport terminal. And
Mhm.
so I kiss the ground because I'm happy. I'm so happy to be home. And then I sit down and I'm just kind of waiting for like my next plane or whatever. And this hippie girl comes to the door and like asks me if I've just come home from the war. And I say yes. And she literally spits in my face, because that was happening to a lot of soldiers then. It was a very emotional scene to open the play with. But the reason I bring that all up is I would be backstage preparing for this.
Mhm.
And Meisner's technique wasn't that you think about something sad that's happened in your life to tap into sad feelings. He would have you daydream. And I feel like I want to go through, I still have my book. And I wonder if he used the language visualize or imagine.
Oh, I'm sure you use the word imagine or
Yes.
visualize,
Yes.
one or
Yeah.
the other.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean,
So
they,
I would be playing make believe, but it would evoke these emotions in me,
so,
and they had to be emotions that were like not on the surface yet, because you can't go into a scene where that doesn't happen yet in that state, but it was the emotional content was there. It was created. What do you think about all
mhm.
that?
Well, I don't think you were making it up. You can't make up something like that. You have to actually have the experience, right? Because your subconscious mind has
No,
seen it
no, but I
before.
was creating an alternative reality. Not I wasn't creating the scene that was about to happen. I
Hmm.
was creating emotional depth of sorrow, disappointment, like, but it wasn't specific to the scene that I was going to be in, because
Hmm.
in acting, if you keep doing the same take from the same perspective every time, it gets a little flat.
Hmm.
So I was
Hmm.
trying to have an authentic experience to the scene
Well,
that was happening.
I guess the question then would be, what were you pulling from? A personal experience?
No, because when you're pulling from a personal experience, it loses weight over time. We were
So you
literally
were just
doing,
making it up
yes,
out of thin
I
air.
was thin air,
Okay.
visualizing and imagining and creating scenarios that didn't ever happen to me. But by tapping into the five senses, feeling it,
Hmm.
smelling it, hearing it, it
Hmm.
created an alternative reality, which is
Okay.
what I think we're talking about ultimately is changing the loops and patterns. And we're not changing it with something that hasn't happened yet. We're creating the state for change, right? We're creating the pathways
Hmm.
for the neuroplasticity to shift and create new pathways of change, new
Uh, yes,
ways,
new.
right?
Yes.
Stepping into that which you desire
Yes.
so that it's
Yeah.
real.
Your future self, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to create that, right? That's the only way it all works. Otherwise, you're just walking through life.
I'm just giving an example, girl. I
I'm just
know.
saying,
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I, yeah, I think that you have to create that image.
Yes.
Good, bad, or indifferent, no matter what you have to pull from it. Like if you're an actor and you got to pull something, okay, great, create that image. If you're just the average person walking around the world and you want a better life, then
Hmm.
you better step into your better life. Like you have to be
Well,
able to see that,
let's
right?
first define what that is, right? That's kind of important. What does that look
Well,
like?
of
What is it?
course.
What do you look like you had said before, right? You got
Mhm.
it's almost as if we're in a video game and you're
Mhm.
creating your character. Like
Your avatar?
literally, when I don't game anymore, but when I used to, I would, you know, create the, and I think on like when, what do they call them? Shoot.
Your
Uh,
avatar?
yes, thank you very much. I don't know why I was stumbling over that word. Like when you're creating your avatar, it's like, are you
Hmm.
creating it as your current self or maybe the self that you might like to evolve into?
Yeah. Yeah. Or the self that has to show up because you're playing some, Call of Duty or whatever. And honestly, that's just more programming.
Uh-huh.
Um, there
Uh-huh.
are kids that are really great at Call of Duty and then go into the military and all of a sudden that's all they do all day is play video games.
Hmm.
Except they're really not video games.
No, that
No.
is
But
no longer
but
a
that is who's
simulation. Yeah.
that is who's doing it is those kids
Yeah.
that were playing Call of Duty. Um, which
So
is more programming.
interesting side note. So my youngest loved that I had a PSA, PS, what, PS4, I think it was. So,
Hmm.
and I had that one game that got super popular, GTA.
Hmm. Hmm.
She she beat the game and got really
Hmm.
good at it, and then we would play together occasionally. And like, there's I think she was maybe 14 or 15, and I'm like wondering, like, is this right? Should I be letting her play? Because she is like running people over and like being a pimp
Well,
and like it just
right.
this
I think
character in the game.
yeah. I mean, I know as parents you wrestle with whether it's okay or not, but I think it's the context at which they're playing and the context of which you talk about the way it's played.
Hmm. Fair,
I,
fair,
I
fair.
think I think if parents don't say anything, then it can be like almost as some other type of programming going on there.
Yeah,
There's a lot of goddamn programming,
a lot.
and the
Uh,
more the more I dig in, the more I find out.
yeah.
Like it's so much. I don't know that I can even give you an example, but like that programming is, and it's not innocent programming. A lot of it's not. It was created years ago, 60, 70 years ago, from everybody from like the Vatican to Julia Childs were involved in this programming.
FDA, like the whole low fat versus low carb argument that was back in the 50s and
That's
60s. And
programming.
yeah,
It's all
the
programming.
low fat diet won and got us all fat.
Yeah, you need the fat. Sorry, guys.
It's just another
But
lie. It's just another lie, you know. It's programming. You're
well,
right.
that's what that's food, right? Like, okay, that's one thing, but it's so the programming is just so much that these are the reasons why we can't actually get make some headway in to to help people because the programming has been. I mean, you see it on TV shows, you see it, you know, social media. The programming is so intense.
The news, it's everywhere.
It really is like social media is just a freaking echo chamber of everything that you like.
I
That's it.
heard did I say this last week that I saw a video by Gary V, who's a big marketer, big time guy, lots of millions of followers, and he said, stop blaming the algorithm. You are the algorithm.
That's very true. However, the algorithm will give you what you want and then something you don't want. And then it'll give you
Yeah,
more of
you
what you
you brought
want.
this up last time, right? The in and
Right.
out, the in and out,
So,
the good, the bad, the
Gary,
good, the bad, right? Like, yeah, it's definitely not 100%. I just love that he said that because it really, to me, that resonated with me because
mm-hmm,
my algorithm supports what I'm interested in, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um, and I try to be conscious of like if something like something will pop up that's not in line with anything I've liked or it just well,
mm-hmm,
first of all, let's be honest, there's ads everywhere. So, you know, that and it
mm-hmm.
might be even be something we all joke about this, but our phones are all listening to us, and then all of a sudden you
Absolutely.
start talking about talking about getting a new pet, but you want to go to a rescue, and like the next thing you know, you got an ad in Facebook the next day for rescue cat mission. Like,
Listen, they are listening. The
yeah,
phones are listening to you. The
I'm pretty sure you got to sign your life away every time you do an update where it says I accept."
accept.
And if you're the one person that reads all of the terms, God bless you, but I think I've skimmed it once or twice in my life, but I usually just scroll right down
Yeah,
and click
yeah. You
accept
just hit
because
accept. You don't have a choice.
I'm okay. I'm okay with
It's
you
the
listening.
illusion of choice, though.
Ah,
That right
yes,
there is an illusion of choice.
yeah, yeah. All right.
Because if you don't take it, okay, what are you going to do?
Right.
You going to go somewhere else? You're going to have to take it there.
Mhm.
They are presented. It's a double bind, isn't it?
It is. Yes, it is. Please explain to our
Yeah.
audience what a double
No,
bind is.
you can explain. I gave you the example.
Nope.
You tell me what the double bind is.
Nope. I forget.
Okay, well, it's like your left arm is heavy and your right leg is
Oh,
light.
yeah.
Double bind. Either way, it's going up, and you're
Isn't that
trying
the
to
law
raise
of
one
reverse
hand.
action as well?
No, law of reverse action is the harder you try to not do something, the more likely you are to
Yeah.
do it.
Okay. So how's that
Right.
different from the double bind?
The double bind is this heavy light is a double bind, isn't it?
I believe you might be correct. Yeah.
Okay. I'm pretty sure.
I don't call it that. It's just the deepener.
I know. Same.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I was just that it came up, because it doesn't matter what you do. You cannot accept the terms. You're still going to do it. So maybe it is a law of reverse
It's
action.
like I have one of my buddies from Seattle, this text group, and he like is adamant about not getting the new iPhone all the time and not upgrading and not, and I'm like, it just cracks me up. Like
You will.
he refuses to do the updates because he's not going to have,
Oh, I think we all have that one friend that doesn't want to update their phone. And it's like, you'll update it sooner or later. The harder you try not to, the more likely you are to do it. So
yeah,
good luck.
yeah.
Good luck.
Uh, So something else you said made me think of a topic that came up. I did a practicum at HMI on staircase. It's one of my now traditionally it's a deepener, but I had an experience early on with one of our classmates who presented the idea of seeing an image of my higher self at the top of the staircase, and I asked Cheryl about that, and I thought it was John Melton that gets credit for doing it because he does that in as part of his smoking cessation program is that you see this permanent non-smoker in the mirror. And that's where I remember first adapting it, but I was curious. I don't know if I've asked you this offline or on, but Cheryl said no, and Cheryl says first of all, Cheryl said does not use the mirror on the staircase. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do. I'm
You're
going through all
noodling.
the.
Yeah.
I'm noodling. Hold on.
Yeah.
Please hold.
I find it to
Looking for the update.
be very powerful that people look and see this higher self image that you're talking about creating. Like
Hmm.
it's just interesting to me that it for me it's an imagery journey. It's not necessarily just a deepener, so to speak, to get people to get into a deeper relaxed state. Um,
Right.
it's more about seeing yourself as your future self, as you're talking about, right? Do you use
Hmm.
that?
I
Have we
do.
talked
I
about
do.
this?
I think we. Is there something we haven't talked about?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure you know everything that I have said ever.
um,
um, but I was trying to
um,
find out who gets credit for this idea of the mirror at the top of the staircase that reflects your
I don't.
higher self. And I reached out to Melton via email, but he hasn't responded. A little bummed out about that. But it's
I
like an
don't know.
old Hotmail email that I have for him. So I know. It's not even
Okay.
his, or not Hotmail. Maybe it's his website. Anyway, yeah, I was giving him credit for it because I thought I remember being introduced to it as part of his smoking cessation certification program. You
I don't
took
know where
that,
that
right?
came. Yeah, 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 yep, yeah. Um, I don't know where it came from, but I
Yeah,
have heard it. I'm trying to remember who I've heard it from besides you. And I do use the mirror. Um, but I don't do up. I do down.
I don't do up either. I do say
Okay.
that you'll feel safe. It's well lit. It's got 20 steps. There's a handrail, so you feel safe traveling up or down. But I don't,
Oh,
I think I can count on two fingers the amount of times I may have had somebody go back up and go
yeah.
back down. I
I
don't,
only go
yeah,
down. Because I have this weird thought in my head that if I do up, I'm counting them out, and it'll lighten their state. So I don't ever do up. Um, just like I always do, not always, but 95% of the time, I always do top down progressive.
yeah, me too. I
Now,
like,
some people start at the toes
well,
if they're sitting in a chair so you don't fall forward, blah, 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 but nobody's sitting in a
yeah,
chair anymore.
yeah. So I can tell you why. It's
What?
because when HMI began, and probably most people were, I mean, you talk about Freud, right? They would lay down. And
Uh-huh.
so with HMI historically, right? If you go into the
Uh-huh.
vault, right?
Yeah,
What are they all in when they're hypnotized? They're in a recliner.
that's what I just said.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Because
hear
if
that.
they're sitting upright, they'll fall over if you start at the head,
Yeah.
according to Cheryl, and everything you see. Um, but if you start at the toes, or head,
Yeah,
at the
same.
head, yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah. We're
Um,
on the same page there.
yeah, yeah. Um, so yes, brain only observes what we focus on.
I'm like obsessed looking for I just did a quick search for like the mirror on a therapeutic hypnotic staircase and nothing's coming up. I'd have to be able to not be recording a podcast while I was searching on the internet.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that came from. I want to say it was at HMI though, where I heard it, but I'm almost
Yeah,
positive. I don't know which one.
it's
I
just
don't.
I'm a little bit of I like to know little history stuff here and there. You know, who gets
Yeah,
credit
I know. That's why I
for
keep giving
stuff.
you facts over here, trivia.
Lord help me, this woman.
I'm, I'm a queen of trivia, man. I don't know what to tell
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. All right. Got it. All right. So what else you want to talk about? You want to get into why the law of repetition works? You want to talk a little bit about that? Because that seems to be
Why
the
does it
easiest
work?
one for people to kind of latch on to.
Yeah, why does it work?
Well, I think we started talking about it. It's that it's you can literally create your own loop, your own pattern. I mean, we talked about this when that the Super Bowl song, the halftime show. I mean, it's still trending,
Going.
still looping and looping. Must it
Hmm.
on the beat,
Hmm.
not like
I
us.
know. Right. Say Drake.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. Drake's not suffering because of all that. I mean, maybe a little. Ooh. Uh, yeah, not a great picture that's painted by that song, of course. But um, what do they say in advertising?
No such
Even
thing as bad press.
talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's no such thing as bad press. Um, and everybody, that law of repetition there is, um, it kind of leads to that whole like the whole social media echo chamber. And, then it goes into overload. And then you have to jump on the boat there
Yeah.
because then there'll be a fear of missing out.
Mhm.
And everybody has to side with one side. There's confirmation bias, like, and then there's social comparison. Like they hit all the markers with that.
Mhm.
That's why that is still going, by the way,
Yeah.
because of those elements. And that's why people are so highly focused
Mhm.
on it.
But it's
And the
it's
neuroplasticity.
it's it's setting that specific trending topic, we'll call that
Mm-hmm.
trending loop that is
Mm-hmm.
everybody is mostly everybody, right? There's outliers
Mm-hmm.
out there that are like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Yeah, I heard it. I didn't care for it. That halftime show was lame, blah, blah, whatever. Um,
True. But
it's just one of numerous loops that are created.
it's just a really good current
It's a
example.
good one. Yeah, it's a really
But that's,
good.
yeah,
And it's got a
it's,
little dance to it. Like, yeah,
mhm.
it's got it.
Yeah,
It's got all, it's invoking all the senses.
absolutely. And all the, brain and mental um
Kinesthetic.
triggers that
Yep.
are going.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hitting them all. Like
Yeah.
you don't want to be the only person that hasn't heard, you know, not like us. You don't want to
Right.
be the only person that doesn't know what Cedric means. Like you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be the person that can't do the dance. Like there's a whole thing going on there.
Yeah. Uh, so that in itself is this habitual loop that's been created. And then if you partake in it, it takes even greater hold. So hearing it over and over is one thing, but then acting it out yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you're putting cement shoes on that thing into your subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes part of you,
Absolutely.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
as I think I posted individually, not as part of our podcast, like when right after the Super Bowl, I was like, I did my own little spin on it, right? Where I used something positive in there in the loop as opposed to the words that, you know, um, that
What did
that
he say?
that he was saying. Yeah. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just interesting how you can take something that is just a standard kind of loop programming and use it to your
Mm-hmm.
advantage. And I even then created a playlist. And so like today, I was feeling a little kind of just super chill and I was like, oh boy, it's almost time to like get ready. And I was like, and I put on one of my songs, right? Actually, it was one of the songs that we listed in last week's episode, Lose Yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one.
Try not get motivated after listening to that.
It's very hard. It's very
Yeah.
hard.
And
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
strategically have like home pods everywhere in my house. So no matter where I'm walking, like if I'm
Yeah,
leaving the
you can hear
kitchen and
it.
I'm in the bathroom and I'm getting ready, like it's just following me and just pounding it in. I love it. Yeah,
Wonderful.
it
It's
lifts me.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, music does that, right? Sound, it triggers, it hits all the sensory markers and emotional ones,
Hmm.
mental ones.
Do you think
I mean,
that
these
we
are
all can use music like that, or is it just certain people respond to it? I mean, because there are different forms of our suggestibility, how we prefer to take in information.
right.
Uh, do you think that everybody is susceptible to that musical loop programming?
I think so.
Because you think about all of the different eras, right? If you go all the way back to the baby boomers and like, rock around the
Mhm.
clock or, I mean, what child of the 60s and 70s wasn't standing around and rocking to Rocking Robin? Like it
I know.
music is the what do they call it? What's that saying about, the
The
not the frame
soundtrack to your life.
soundtrack of our lives? Yeah. Yeah.
Don't think so loud. My witchy ways start to take over.
Yeah, I know. As one of our listeners pointed out, our connection, our energy is pretty amazing. Yeah. Um,
Mm.
so use that to your advantage.
Yeah, music is a thing. Like, um, hold on, what's it called? Um, what is that called when music aids to like the memory, and it's a technique, and it enhances the retention of something. A mnemonic device, is that how it's said? um I mean, they've been using that for years, like when they march in the army and they sing the songs, like,
Your left, your left,
yeah,
your
and then
left,
they turn it
right,
into a
left.
song.
Yeah. It's cadence
Oh,
is the word,
thank
but
you.
that's not, is that
That's the other word, but a mnemonic,
woohoo?
I think it's
I
mnemonic
fact
device.
checker. I was a fact checker for a second. Woohoo! That's a
Mhm.
big victory.
It is.
It's right up there with
Um,
you're right, Don.
um, yeah. So, um, but I think music, because music will trigger things, right? So
Sure.
I definitely think everybody, um, I absolutely think music does that, because think, your mother probably sang songs to you.
I would agree. Yeah.
So,
And I don't know why
yes,
I feel like I've read that somewhere that it starts that lulling voice of our mothers. Yeah.
right. Well, yeah, and because, you know, um, yeah,
Hush, little
mothers,
baby, don't say a word.
well, that, and like, um, you hear that voice all the time. That's primary caregiver.
Hmm.
That's, you know, that's safety. It's survival and safety.
Yeah.
So I would guess that that is part of the reason why music is so impactful on our brain. Because mom sings, that voice is that sing-songy kind of way. I would guess that that's part of the reason why.
And it's at a time of our lives where we're the most suggestible, like absolute
Literally,
fact, taking it in.
you're literally taking it in as
Literally.
literal
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, yes, I agree with the music being, that is part of it. It's, I mean, music is soundtrack to your life.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, I'm gonna, this is slightly off topic, but it's music related. I was working with a mentee who asked me if I use music in my hypnotic sessions, and I've used it occasionally, but it's not a standard thing that I do. Do you
Yes, yes.
all the
There's
time?
music in the back every time. There's music in the
Really?
background. Yes.
Interesting.
Mhm.
And
Yes,
is it
there's music in the
nondescript? I'm
background.
assuming it's nondescript. It's more about um uh theta waves, sounds, or
Theta, delta,
okay.
some sounds, water sounds, depending, bells, not bells, but like, singing bowls. Sorry, not bells, singing bowls.
Else
So, well, I was thinking chime-ish, like,
like
there's
that.
some
Yeah.
chime, yeah, like a
Yeah.
singing bowl or chime-ish, like, um, but yeah, I do every time. It's in the
Interesting.
background.
All right.
Hmm. Yeah, I like it. It fills a little bit of space. Um, and it's also, brainwaves.
It is.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, there are certain sounds that, trigger brain activity.
Part of the positive programming.
Yeah, see, it works that way.
We can use all of this for good. All of these things that we're pointing
Yeah.
out, Justin, I just feel like I have to be Captain Obvious for our audience that if you're not connecting and going, oh, so I could do this and create positive loops, right?
Okay.
That's why the words
Mm-hmm.
of affirmation, as long as you believe that which you're affirming, it has to be in line with almost a SMART goal, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
realistic to you.
Mm-hmm.
It has
Mm-hmm.
to be something that you can see yourself stepping into.
Well, that's why the car analogy works so well,
Yeah.
because you are planning on buying a car. Let's say you're planning on buying a red Honda. You're going to see every red Honda on the planet, but you have it so detailed and so out there, right?
Hmm.
So that's why it works. That's why if you have the image of your future self so concrete, for yourself, or the things, let's say it's you, this is the life you want, and you take um let's say 1,000 images, and it's just on repeat on your iPad, and it's always there. You're always seeing those images. It will start to happen because that's what you're looking at. That's what your brain is focused on. That's why it's so important to have that true image of your future self.
Have you been a big fan of the vision board before?
Um, no,
No?
no,
It's a version of future pacing.
it is, and it is, and I totally agree with it. Yeah, I just don't do it. I'm being honest, I don't do
Uh-oh,
it.
ladies and gentlemen, Tina's holding back for a moment.
No, because I mean, I just don't like. I don't have any room on my walls. So those are reserved for other things. This is hilarious,
A lot of people
by the way.
swear
You
by
see
it,
what's on
man.
the wall. I get it. I get it. No, I have other things. I leave like little notes for myself. I do those things like on mirrors, and I'll leave one on my coffee pot, or I'll, those types of things I do. A
My
vision board, I
fridge.
just never. Yeah, I mean, I just don't do a whole vision board. I'd rather have it one, like, on a refrigerator all around, because I'm always moving. I'm never
Uh-huh.
sitting very still for very long. So,
Right.
but I mean, if you do that, that works. You're visually seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. So you got
Mm-hmm.
to own that.
Future pacing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Future self. See that future self.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good place to put a cap on this. And then just in case people are wondering, is this easier in hypnosis? Yes.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
much easier
So much
to
easier.
work with a skilled clinician, a person that really understands this world and can help. I mean, it might be beneficial if they're an imagery master. Anybody a visual imagery master? I think we've got two hands up. Yeah. Yeah, that's not an imagery award. That's just a award for
I wouldn't have
X.
got that had I not done
You're
the
just
imagery. So
excellent. Yeah. Just in case
I
you're
have my
listening
imagery
and
stuff.
not watching this, Tina pointed to her latest her latest award, which I'm very proud of you for that. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just being snarky,
I know.
sarcastically
Yeah,
talking.
being
Just fun.
playful. All right, well
Um,
there you go. Um ask for help. We're here for you.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could imagine and visualize it happening. So make it happen.
Yeah. There you
Yeah,
go. All right. Well,
our subconscious speaks. The question is, are you listening?
great question, Tina. All right. Well, thank you. Today was awesome. You're awesome. Love you.
Love you bunches.
Okay. Bye everybody.